lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call me. Just call me. Just call me. Just call me.
From Watkins, Glen, New York, the A Lot Cleaner Property Management and Maintenance Xfinity Series is ready to go road racing here in the 2023 season. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to New York's wine country as the Shriners Children's 200 race here at Watkins Glen is ready to get underway. I'm Dave Regal here in the broadcast booth, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way, from the green flag to the checkered flag, right here on Sim Racing Media. And folks, glad to have you with us tonight as we take a look at our drivers getting now qualifying started. Brandon Minto here going top fastest right now on our leaderboard. Gabriel Lafreniere, though, just hopped out there completing that first lap here in the 06 Oxmoor Chevrolet Camaro. We'll take a look here at the timing tower as it comes in. Looks like Chris Claude out running his opening lap here. We'll take a look as he gets ready to cross the start-finish line. as he goes under that Go Bowling Bridge. Chris going 5th fastest. He comes in a little hot here on the entrance to turn number 1, and then we go on this long uphill swooping turn. In fact, let's ride along with Chris, and we'll take a look and see just what these drivers are going to be dealing with tonight getting around this piece. We don't often get a chance to ride with Chris, so here we go. After we come up that hill, we're going to go down this long straightaway, and we can see here on his left 5, 4, 3, 2, and he is on the binders getting into the bus stop. As he takes these curves, you can see those curves getting just where he needs to be. He stays in the throttle, though. That tightens the car up here. Coming through the carousel and now back uphill. That's not off track where he is there, as he's now going to cross and take all of that momentum down here into this hard left 90-degree turn. Once again, taking the turn a little wide. That gives him a little bit more arc here as he gets under the Go Bowling Bridge one more time. And Chris crosses the start-finish line, going 9th fastest in his effort here. So obviously he's probably not that happy with that performance, as Landon Lacey in the number 54 Ryco Ford Mustang getting all wound up. Bennett Allen still not having recorded a time at this moment, as he is just on that opening lap. We see Matt Mettler, my teammate here at Sim Racing Media, crossing the start-finish line and bringing his Ford Mustang on the first lap in that Team Watson number 64 Ford Mustang. Couple of Fords here in the field tonight, 4 of them, as a matter of fact, 4 Toyotas. So that's 8 vehicles that are not Chevy bow ties. So this league, as we mention every week, is very Chevy heavy, if you will. And, you know, obviously they know something that we don't here in the broadcast booth, as Aaron Mack finishes his qualifying run in 6th position. We'll take a look at the JCTV number 15. Hey, Bennett, listen, we need you to come back out here on track. There we go, as I guess he's going to reset. About 4 minutes left here in our qualifying session. Going to stop in here with Ferta Motorsports' very own Brandon Minto. Hey, Brandon, it's Dave up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you, Dave.
Well, man, listen, you went 2nd fastest here in your qualifying run. How is that car feeling out on the racetrack tonight?
It's a little slippery, to be honest, around or through the S's. It's kind of hard to hold it into the throttle or hold the throttle down and everything. And the back end wants to keep coming out, especially once we get through the final S down to that back stretch. Once we get up into the 4th gear, it wants to jump out on me. So hopefully throughout the race, I'll be able to maintain straight and not spin it out.
Yeah, keeping the car underneath you is always important here, especially once you get all that speed going down into turn 1, and that little bit of a valley that you have between 1 and 2 there going uphill. Talk to us about maybe the way that weight transfers in that car, because I know from experience that is just something really extreme.
Yeah, it's a little wild. I mean, it all depends on your entry into turn 1. I've done a lot of practicing, and if you start wheel hopping, kind of like you saw, whether or not it was intentional, but Sam Mayer in the Xfinity race, the real world Xfinity race, he started wheel hopping into 1 there, which I was kind of proud that he did it, like, because I don't really like Ty Gibbs, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, like if you're able to get a good smooth turn into turn 1, and then as you start merging up in towards those S's, it's very smooth. That first turn, it's pretty easy, like nice, subtle right there. And then that switch back to the left, that's where I'm struggling to hold on to the throttle, because I know, like I was talking about, the final S up there, that's where once I start getting into 4th gear, that's where it wants to start jumping on me. So I have to decide to like, it may feel like I have enough grip. I can keep giving it more throttle, but I just got to try to think ahead and know that if I'm carrying too much speed into that final S, then that little transfer of weight, I guess you could say, is coming back around to the right. It'll want to snap on me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously the keys to the car tonight are definitely keep it underneath you. That's for sure. So, good luck the rest of the way tonight, and maybe we'll see you here in victory lane. I don't know if we're going to have any stage break cautions, because that usually takes forever and a day at a place like Watkins Glen. I mean, you laid yourself down a 1 minute 13-second lap, so I'm expecting to see a lot of speed out of you and the rest of the field tonight. Of course, you're going to have to navigate around some of these drivers that are just out there to log their laps and keep pushing forward. Is that frustrating when you're just trying to get around and maybe they aren't as familiar with the track as you are?
Yes and no. Like, I usually have a pretty solid head on my shoulders, so I don't get too upset. I know most of us don't enjoy these road course races, so they're probably just as angry that they're not driving as fast as they think they're going.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if they're just predictable, that's all that matters. Like, if they see we're coming and then they stay off to the side, I'm fine with it. But even if they're staying on the racing line, if they're not just swerving back and forth, it's like, cool. We obviously, like, I'm saying but like the faster cars, like, obviously they show that they have speed, so getting around them should be no issue. Just as long as they're holding the steady line, I'm fine with it.
All right, man. Well, listen, congratulations on the P2 qualifying, and we will chat with you later, my friend.
All right, see you later, Dave.
That, of course, the voice of Brandon Minto, driver of the number 12 machine tonight with the Miller Lite logo right there on the hood. I got to tell you, I am not necessarily a Miller Lite kind of guy, especially up here in wine country. But we're going to step aside right now and pay some bills here on Sim Racing Media as we get ready to rock and roll. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International as we have about 2 minutes left in our warm-up session here. Trent Curtis going fastest here in the warm-up. Want to take a quick look at our race info tonight. Of course, as was just mentioned in pre-race announcements by the great Chris Claude, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer of all that is SNN and the Commissioner of SNN Cup Series action right here on Sim Racing Media. 112 degrees the track temperature, so it will be slick and it will be fast tonight. Even as we see, wow, my goodness. That's the 13 of Trent Curtis. Oh, catching some wall. 86 degrees if you're watching the race live at the Glen tonight. 2.42 miles around this circuit, which is the Cup configuration. So here for the Shriners Children's 200 at the Glen, looks like we're going to have quite a competition tonight, as we almost always do. Going to pull up our qualifying results. We'll go through each of them individually shortly here. But so far tonight, looks like Landon Lacey going to get that pole position. We see R.P. Allen and Bennett Allen in third and fifth, so they'll be lining up one in front of the other. The Allen brothers, always something interesting to watch here in SNN Xfinity Series action. Chris Claude starting in 13th with McAdoo, Pennsylvania's very own John Wilco in 16th. In fact, you can check them out next week in Truck Series action. We see Alexander Gangler down in 19th and Sean Kelly in 20th position, not having logged a time. So an interesting start here for some of these drivers as they went out and qualified. And you know, you can't always put that pressure on somebody, especially when, you know, it's a road course. It's not the same discipline as an oval, obviously. So sometimes you were going to see smaller fields, as we do tonight, with 22 drivers scheduled to take the checkered flag as we get ready to rock and roll here. Timing and scoring getting itself reset. As we're waiting for our drivers to get in their cars, and of course that iRacing.com pace car ready to take them on the parade lap. Just waiting for Brandon Lacey, Brandon Minto, and Bennett Allen to hop in so we can start going through here. There's Brandon Minto. And Landon Lacey gets into the car, so now we can take a closer look here at each of these drivers. Landon Lacey, your pole sitter in the number 54 Ryko Ford Mustang. He's going to be joined on the front row by Brandon Minto from Norman, Oklahoma. In the number 15 B-Blaze Vintage JCTV Chevrolet Camaro is Mr. Bennett Allen of Chattanooga, Tennessee, 2022's MNN Xfinity Series reigning champion. He'll be joined by our neighbor from the north, from Saint-Jude, Canada, Mr. Gabriel Lafreniere. R.P. Allen, the older brother of Bennett, going to be rolling off in fifth position, joined by Aaron Mack in row number 3. Row number 4 features Windham, Virginia's Jeremiah Mullins and Ethan Ball out of Princeton, West Virginia. Definitely not Princeton, New Jersey, that's for sure. As row number 5 is made up of Zachary Vaughn and my teammate here at Sim Racing Media, Mr. Matt Metler, out of the Mid-South Division. Nick Hansen and Chris Claude from Fairview, Tennessee, make up row number 6, and they'll be followed by Ron Fitting and Trent Curtis in his debut here in Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series action. Row number 8 is going to have Dan Morgan from Dubuque, as well as Steve Herring out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Rich Jett from Schwenksville, Pennsylvania, and Sean Kelly from Okinawa, Japan, going to be in row number 9. Row number 10 going to be made up of McAdoo, Pennsylvania's very own John Wilco, and he will essentially be starting shotgun on the field. However, when the green flag flies, there will be 18 drivers ready to rock and roll. And I'm sure that Landon Lacey here in his early MNN Xfinity Series career has got to be strapping those gloves up pretty tight, because he's got some great drivers around him. The iRacing.com pace car bringing the parade of cars down the straightaway here as we get ready to make that hard left turn here into the final segment of our racetrack. They're coming. Road course racing is always something interesting here on iRacing.com. Kind of a wild card race, especially when you're used to seeing certain drivers up atop the pile. The iRacing.com pace car dives on down pit road. And the only thing left to do is, ladies and gentlemen, grab some popcorn and call a friend, settle in, because we're green flag racing at Watkins Glen. Lacey bringing the field down through turn number 1 gracefully, opening up an early lead over Bennett Allen and Brandon Minto. We can see this serpentine snake of cars as Minto and RP Allen going to get out the hammer and tongs early tonight. And we expect to see them duking it out for a vast majority of this evening. Gabriel Lafreniere pushing behind RP Allen as we get started here on lap number 1. Some drivers may be thinking that this is the worst start, but overall it looks like everybody made it through turn number 1 as Zach Vaughn trails Aaron Mack by about half a second as Aaron Mack trying to catch up behind Brandon Minto. And I see Jeremiah Mullins here in the 14. That's a Pabst Blue Ribbon paint scheme there on the Toyota Supra, and I gotta tell you, I've never had Pabst Blue Ribbon, but I've heard that it's a good beer. And an interesting story behind the Blue Ribbon on Pabst. It's basically not a fancy beer whatsoever, but they had to be able to separate themselves from their main competition, which at the time was Anheuser-Busch. And they wanted, when you walked up to a cooler to pull out a bottle of Pabst beer, they wanted you to be able to differentiate easily between Pabst and everything else. So what they did was they tied on a blue ribbon to each bottle, hand-tied each bottle with a blue ribbon. They never won an award, they never were in a competition, but they decided that, of course, the blue ribbon signifying top prize, that would draw people's attention, and obviously the marketing ploy has stuck for well over 100 years now. And it's just an interesting marketing story, if you will. And as we are finally rocking and rolling here, we'll take a look. Is Landon Lacey going to lead our drivers through here? Try a little bit of a different timing tower tonight here on lap number 3 as Landon Lacey going to lead Bennett and RP Allen, as the Allen brothers aren't really fighting it out with one another, but definitely battling it out with Gabriel Lafreniere as Lafreniere chases down RP Allen. And Gabriel is the kind of driver where you do need to watch him, especially at a place like this. And we take a look back here at Zachary Vaughn getting ready to make a move on Aaron Mack. He steps out of line and has decided that that's how he's going to get around, as he just muscled his way back past Ethan Ball. It's a nice touch to the paint scheme, Zachary, as it's got a little bit of that foily, glossy look to it. John Wilco officially out of the pits, trailing by about 17 seconds off the leader. All of a sudden, Gabriel Lafreniere closing in like a homing missile on the rear of RP Allen, as RP trying to log laps and keep that car underneath him, as we heard from Brandon Minto earlier. I just heard an engine problem on our audio, but don't see where that may have been from. As it looks like so far everybody has had a good start here on lap number 4. And it looks like that may have been Sean Kelly. We'll take a run back here and see. Here we go. We're going to take a look at Sean Kelly here in the number 23. As he gets ready to go into the last segment of the track, it looks like he's going to overshoot that turn and just take it into the dirt. And of course, once he gets back underway, he's now going to get back on pace. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, R.P. Allen has put a little bit of distance between himself and Gabriel Lafreniere. Matt Mettler getting ready to duke it out with Dan Morgan, as Mettler had already dropped 3 positions at the beginning of this race, now on the recovery drive back up the chain. As he is all over the rear bumper of Dan Morgan, trying to find a way around him is Matt. As they come down into the bus stop, it looks like Matt going to not use this area here to pass. Probably very wise, as that can cause enough of a headache. They enter the carousel and go down the hill. It's almost like a children's twisty slide. Matt probably hard on the throttle going into the last segment. Still trailing Morgan, but holding his own. He looks to the inside of Morgan. Morgan throws a block in front of him, as Mettler just about had him. And it looks like Morgan wasn't ready to give up 14th position. And there's Sean Kelly going around again. Looks like Chris Claude also perhaps involved. We'll take a look. Taking a look to see what might have happened here with Chris. And here it comes. As Chris goes into the bus stop, he just locks that front left rear up and can't get the car to turn. But he manages to get himself moving forward again. Then we move back to Sean Kelly, who we saw earlier. And we saw Sean Kelly right there taking turn 1 way too wide. Oh, and he gets right. Oh, he's rammed in the rear by Landon Lacey. Oh, we need to take another look at that. Lacey cannot be happy with that whatsoever, as we'll switch over to his car cam. We'll see right here, as Lacey can see Kelly, and Kelly, rather than staying out of the way, just gets right in front of Lacey, and Lacey just blasts him in the rear bumper. So that'll change things for sure, as now Landon Lacey going to be driving with a damaged front end on his Ford Mustang. That's going to change his handling for sure. That opened the door, though, for my buddy Bennett Allen to get up here and lead this piece, as now Lacey looks like he's driving on a mission to get back up there to the lead here on lap number 8. And just an update from our pit reporter, the 8 car driven by Alexander Gangler has another commitment. He'll get back out here on track as soon as he's able. Taking a look at Nick Hansen here in the 99. Being chased down by Ethan Ball. As Ball about 2/10 of a second behind, trying to hold off Rich Jett in the double natural Washington Nationals paint scheme, as has become his weekly paint scheme now. That all started back at Pocono during Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame week, and it just seems to have continued. We're going to take a look here at Ron Fitting, as it looks like old Ronnie may have gotten off a track. We can see the rear end stepping out on the 3, and there he goes as he's going to just grab a hold of that guardrail and hang on for dear life. Jett still chasing down Ball, as Rich Jett is about a half second behind Ball now on lap number 9. Working our way toward lap number 20, so we're halfway through stage number 1 already tonight. 82 total laps, as stage 1 going to conclude at the end of lap number 20. Stage 2 going to end at the end of lap number 40. 5 total sets of tires, laying 4, and believe me, with a track temperature like we had earlier during qualifying and practice, I'm sure that we're going to see that track temperature play a huge factor here, as it's still 109 degrees on the asphalt tonight. You can see that right on the right-hand side of your screen. Rich Jett now flying out here up the hill out of turn number 1. Side by side goes Gabriel Lafreniere with the 13 of Trent Curtis. Curtis gets the edge over our neighbor from the north. As now Ethan Ball getting a little bit more distance, about a half second behind Rich Jett, as Jett made the pass. Chris Claude stepping out of line once again. We'll see what happened with him. Taking a look at Claude, we can see what happened here. We'll fast forward just a little bit. And wow, Chris Claude thinking that maybe he's one of the Duke boys, trying to bring around that 69 Dodge Charger through turn number 1. Keeps it moving though. So good recovery by Claude, that's for sure. We'll have to chat with him later about that move, and maybe he picked that up from Bo and Luke. Of course, New York's wine country, a lot different than Hazard County, Georgia, that's for sure. The first races here at Watkins Glen were organized by a man named Cameron Argetsinger, and his family had a summer home in the area with local Chamber of Commerce approval and SCCA sanction. The first Watkins Glen Grand Prix took place in 1948 on a 6.6 mile course over local public roads, so a true Grand Prix, or Grand Prix, depending on how fancy you want to be. And trust me, here in Norristown, Pennsylvania, we're not that fancy. But, a true Grand Prix being held on actual roads and streets where, of course, now we make sure that it's on a closed course. looks like Steve Herring, the first car to go a lap down, as he has decided to come into pit early here on lap number 11. We're going to start to see a lot of these lap numbers here on the timing tower. Some of that data going to be filling in nicely as time goes on here. And you can see the mix of manufacturers here, as it looks like Trent Curtis and Gabriel Lafreniere starting to exchange blows here. Taking a look at Rich Jett here in the number 9. He is one of our biggest movers, as Trent Curtis, our biggest mover of the race, in the number 13 machine. Curtis up 10 positions after qualifying 14th, has worked his way up here into the top 5 nicely. And it's only taken him 14 laps, as we've got about 7 to go here in stage number 1. You're watching Monday Night NASCAR Xfinity Series action, brought to you by A Lot Cleaner Property Management and Maintenance. Of course, I don't see A Lot Cleaner Property Management and Maintenance Chief Cook and Bottle Washer, Mr. Tony Burt, tonight in our live chat. But Tony, if you're listening, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you keeping us on the air. And speaking of being on the air and keeping us on the air, we're going to step aside right now and pay some bills here on Sim Racing Media. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International, where a battle breaking out for third position as Trent Curtis, up 10 positions from where he had begun, is now chasing down Brandon Minto, as Minto has now opened up about 4.5 of a second over Curtis. It was a lot shorter just a moment ago, but obviously Minto throwing on the jets. We're going to take a look here at John Wilco out of McAdoo, Pennsylvania. As John may have had himself an issue getting here into the bus stop, where we're going to see a lot of folks having trouble. He takes that just a little bit too tight. And sometimes when you come off of the bus stop, you wind up, there it is, bringing the rear around, coming into the carousel. Fortunately, he just carefully noses it against the guardrail. Oop, almost caught R.P. Allen as he's going to pull away, just as if he's on a country road up there out of Calares or Tresco. Never thought that I'd be using Calares or Tresco on the air, but here I am, killing it. Speaking of which, starting September 5th, you can tune into 105.5 WMGH and catch yours truly doing the news and information every morning. Kind of exciting here. As we take a look at race leader Bennett Allen, he's currently setting the pace now with 4.2 seconds over his big brother RP. Bennett's best friend, the boy king, Joseph Lester, not out on track tonight as he has been the last several weeks. And folks, if you're watching at home, make sure that you give us a shout here in the youtube.com live chat. Let us know what you're paying attention to, what you're watching. As we see Bennett Allen absolutely just starting to open up that interval, as now there are 12 seconds over himself and RP. Things starting to calm down on the racetrack as far as real estate goes, until you get back here to 7th position, where they're still running like it's traffic at rush hour in the morning. Jeremiah Mullins right in the thick of things, just behind Aaron Mack in the number 31 Harbor Freight Chevrolet Camaro. Sorry, I was thinking truck series. And we look back here to Zach Vaughn and Rich Jett as they roll up out, as Jett trailing by just 0.4 of a second. So obviously this is one of those races within the race, if you will. Vaughn starting to get a run over Jett now, as we've seen quite a variety of incidents tonight on the racetrack. Of course, right now it seems like there's just 13 cars on the lead lap, and we go all the way back here to Matt Metler, who's behind by 1 minute 6 seconds. And let's see, if we do our math here, Bennett Allen's last lap was 1 minute 15 seconds. So simple math says that Bennett Allen's about 9 seconds behind that bumper of Mr. Metler. So Matt better start pedaling that thing a little bit harder, or hope to God for the stage break. And as I say that, Bennett Allen leading us to the stage break. He's going to get those stage points. We'll see what happens here when he crosses the start-finish line. We can see Bennett negating the bus stop ever so perfectly. And, you know, one of the things that does is it really does kind of make drivers bring that car under control. Instead of shooting right through the bus stop, I can't imagine the amount of speed that you'd be carrying downhill. And he's taking that momentum and he's swinging out here to the left and now drifting back to the right, using the speed that he picked up from the momentum of the turn before to get up here into this final segment. And as he comes through the last turn and gets ready to come up the hill, Bennett Allen can see the start-finish line and he will cross, and that will be the beginning of the end for stage number 1. As we stand right now, R.P. Allen going to be next across the line. He'll take home bonus points here. Trent Curtis going to take home another, 8 bonus points. Brandon Minto and Gabriel Lafreniere. Aaron Mack rolling out quite a ways difference, about 17 seconds behind Lafreniere. But he's not going to be challenged, so he's going to bring home 6th. Jeremiah Mullins in his debut here in the Pabst Blue Ribbon Toyota Supra. He crosses the start-finish line in 7th. 8th is Zachary Vaughn. 9th, Rich Jett. And rounding out the top 10 drivers being awarded bonus points here at the end of stage number 1 is Ethan Ball. And right now, Bennett Allen is making this look just that easy. For those of you baseball fans, taking a quick peek as to what's going on just a few minutes away from where I live here in Norristown, about a 45-minute ride to South Philadelphia. Right now, the Philadelphia Phillies are leading the San Francisco Giants 10-2 in the top of the 8th inning, and they are cruising to the W here in South Philly. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball, the Cubbies lead the Tigers in the bottom of the 8th, 8-4 in Detroit. The Pittsburgh Pirates are ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals in the top of the 7th, 8-1. 8 seems to be a pretty popular number. But knotted up right now with 2 on and 1 out in the bottom of the 2nd are the Houston Astros and Boston Red Sox. Houston up to bat, so looking to threaten to break that tie down there. Later on this evening in Major League Baseball action, as we're looking toward the playoffs here soon, it looks like 9:40 p.m. the San Diego Padres will be hosting the Miami Marlins. Also at 9:40 will be the Oakland A's hosting the Kansas City Royals. And an interesting story there is, Oakland hosting Kansas City. Once upon a time, the Oakland A's, of course, played here in Philadelphia. They were our American League team. And they didn't move right from Philadelphia to Oakland. They actually made a stop in Kansas City for a short while before moving to Oakland. So it's kind of like when the A's play the Phillies, although that they were never replaced by the Phillies per se. They simply moved out of town and left the Phillies the sole ball club here in Philly. Interestingly enough, they were replaced by the Royals, who of course have played at Kauffman Stadium for decades now, and one of the nicer ballparks in baseball, in my opinion. Of course, I think that just simply has to do with the fact that it's historic, it's old, it's nice. Bennett Allen having come down. On lap 21 for pit service, as well as R.P. Allen, Trent Curtis, Brandon Minto, Zachary Vaughn, Ethan Ball, and Nick Hansen, all coming down on lap 21. Gabriel Lafreniere staying out for the time being, even as we can see right now that distance melting away between Bennett and Gabriel, as he just went from 9 seconds all the way down to 6.5, and even getting shorter here at 6.3 seconds, as it looks like Bennett is gunning for the lead once again. Aaron Mack and Jeremiah Mullins choosing to come down pit road. Let's take a look at everybody's pit strategy so far. We can see these drivers with nothing but a yellow bar here haven't not come down yet. Taking a look right now at Aaron Mack getting 4 tire service, as we see the left side go up. And unlike an oval track, of course, the left side goes up first here, and now the right side, they're going to drop him back down, and he is going to take off from pit road on lap number 24. Mullins also making his graceful exit from the pits, as that leaves Gabriel Lafreniere leading another lap here, as just 3.35 seconds separate he and Bennett Allen, who's on those fresh tires and obviously making a march. RP Allen about 21 seconds off the lead, 17 behind Bennett. So things obviously beginning to get shuffled around now as pit cycling is underway. Rich Jett bringing the Nationals machine down pit road. We can see once again Trent Curtis getting ready to come out of, no, I'm sorry, that's Rich Jett coming down through. And now Chris Claude. As Claude running in 16th position, down just one lap. He could really use a competition caution right about now, as we will be having one. Rich Jett rolling off of pit road. He's going to get in the line right behind the 13, it looks. Right in front of the 31 and the 96. And Lafreniere still the only driver, as now he's being challenged and moves out of the way of Bennett Allen. It almost seems like Lafreniere decided he wants to see if he can stretch these tires as far as they will take a human, that's for sure, as Allen is on 4-lap-old tires. We're going to start to see that time delta change between Bennett Allen and Gabriel Lafreniere, as Bennett Allen has now surpassed him and is now gaining time over Lafreniere. And although the iRacing schedule may come down here to a Monday Night Football live on ESPN, don't change your channel, but you can always DVR it. Looks like right now the Baltimore Ravens leading the Washington Commanders 7-3 at the 2-minute warning in the first half in Landover, Maryland. And I guess that's kind of like a battle of the Beltway, if you will, as the Ravens and the Commanders only separated by a little less than an hour. And oddly enough, the Ravens play in Baltimore, Maryland, and the Washington Commanders play in Landover, Maryland. So really, same state, two teams, if you will. But another ho-hum week in NFL preseason action, as the Browns and the Eagles wind up tying 18-all. The Panthers lose to the Giants 21-19 up in the Meadowlands. Bengals and the Falcons play to a tie. The Jaguars trounce the Lions 25-7. Miami Dolphins beating the Houston Texans 28-3. Interestingly enough there, of course, Mike Golick having played for the Miami Dolphins and the former Houston Oilers that, of course, became the Tennessee Titans, but also playing in Houston. Steelers beat the Bills 27-15. The Patriots beat the Packers 21-17. Well, I guess we could call them the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets falling to the Buccaneers 13-6. And the Dallas Cowboys falling short to the Seattle Seahawks 22-14 in preseason action. What an interesting week in preseason action. And one of the things that I think that we've kind of gone unnoticed with, and it's something that I always thought that the NFL is really good at, is burying a story. You don't hear, I mean, last year, of course, we knew that it was the last season of TB12, and what a great career that man had in football. I mean, you can't deny that he had a long career, did Tom Brady. But we've already turned the page. The NFL continues to march on as the juggernaut that it is, and for lack of a better term, that's it. You know, the big story this year, of course, is Aaron Rodgers making the move to New York. And, you know, I can't help but, as we sit here in New York at Watkins Glen, I can't help but think to myself, it's an interesting transition for him to go from Green Bay to New York, to the New York Jets, just like the great Brett Favre did. And, you know, at first you might have thought that Brett Favre does Brett Favre pretty good because he's Brett Favre. But Aaron Rodgers is doing a lot of Brett Favre kind of things too. You know, you win one Super Bowl up there at Lambeau. You play with a team that was built around you, and it was just kind of hobnobbed together. And then you make the move to New York. And I'm curious to see what that does for Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, let us know in the youtube.com live chat what you think of the Aaron Rodgers move to the New York Jets, because I'm curious to know what other folks think as, you know, fantasy football draft season is upon us, and whether or not we think that he has the pedigree to be able to be successful in the Empire State, or more realistically, technically the Garden State, if you will, as, of course, the Jets play in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Of course, as I'm taking a look here at ESPN Plus, looks like Eric Karabell thinks that future Hall of Famer quarterback Aaron Rodgers is no longer a member of the Green Bay Packers, and he thinks that maybe some fantasy football managers may be undervaluing Aaron Rodgers, so don't sleep on him, but you can't call him a sleeper, that's for sure, as Jeremiah Mullins gets around Dan Morgan, securing away 7th position. 11 positions up now is Rich Jett in the number 77 Chevrolet Camaro. In fact, let's take a run through our top 10 since we have a moment here, as we'll take a look. Bennett Allen out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's our race leader right now. Gabriel Lafreniere from St. Jude in the 06 Oxmoor Chevrolet Camaro. He's running in 2nd position. R.P. Allen, the older brother of Bennett Allen from Great Falls, Montana. He runs in 3rd position. Trent Curtis in 4th. And Brandon Minto wrapping up the top 5. Rich Jett running in 6th position right now. Jeremiah Mullins in 7th with Aaron Mack, Nick Hansen, and Ethan Ball out of Princeton, West Virginia, rounding out your top 10. Anyway, but getting back to it, you know, one of the things that I found interesting is the fact that, you know, people are not talking about Tom Brady. Will he come back? No, of course not. He's going to have himself a nice, cushy job with Fox Sports, and you have to be curious whether or not they suddenly slide him into the number 1 slot in the booth just because he's Tom Brady, or do they put him on a lesser, you know, broadcast team, so to speak. Of course, you know, you wouldn't want to pull Greg Olson out of the booth and slide him to another team. You certainly don't think that you could put the 2 of them in a booth and work a 3-man booth, but to be fair, it's America's Game of the Week. It's always that 4:30 game or 4:15 game on Fox that draws the eyeballs for sure. So it's, of course, entirely possible that they do make that into a 3-man booth. It would just be very hard to do, I would think. Of course, I say that, and NASCAR has been doing the 3-man booth for years, you know, both on Fox and NBC. As we take a look at Gabriel Lafreniere running right now in 2nd position, He is 19 and a half seconds behind Bennett Allen on lap number 32. And as we get ready to cross the stripe this time by, we will have 50 to go. I don't know if you folks caught it last night on ESPN, but of course the Philadelphia Phillies and Washington Nationals played in the Cooperstown Classic game, or whatever they were calling it this year, for the Little League World Series. And first of all, I think that experience for those kids up in Williamsport is incredible. I mean, first off, if you know anything about Williamsport, Pennsylvania, it is, for lack of a better term, the middle of nowhere. So all of a sudden, you know, of course, the home of Little League Baseball, just 6 cars on the lead lap here at Watkins Glen. But it's the middle of nowhere, and wow, R.P. Allen really putting the hooks into Gabriel Lafreniere, who's still holding his ground here in 3rd position. And if Gabriel can hold on for another 7 laps, he will have made 40 laps on one set of tires, keep him in 3rd position. So an interesting strategy here from Gabriel. But anyway, the way that they... Oh, and Gabriel has decided that it is time to come on down pit road, as we see him creeping on down the pit lane. So this will be an interesting time now as we can pull up that pit strategy box. But they, you know, first off, they treat these kids like kings, and they should, because these kids, especially their parents, driving them all over from game to game to game, no matter what region you happen to be in, you know, have put in a ton of work, you know, for being kids. And, you know, seeing Bryson Stott and Bryce Harper with these custom bats that they had last night is just something special. You know, Bryce Harper has really embraced the persona of the Philly fanatic. He is all in for Philadelphia, and it's just such a breath of fresh air. You know, as a free agent coming in a few years ago, and you think, okay, free agent, high price. No, he has absolutely embraced this city, and this city loves him back. That's for sure. And then, of course, Bryson Stott had a really cool little scheme on his baseball bat last night. It was a pencil, you know, kind of like those Dixon Ticonderoga pencils. And, you know, it's just interesting to see some of these players who never forget where they came from. Interestingly enough, Dixon Ticonderoga is a subsidiary of the Dixon Ticonderoga Company, and Joseph Dixon founded the company in. Well, oddly enough, this is kind of interesting. The company was formed by the merger of Joseph Dixon Crucible Company of New Jersey with Bryn Mawr Corporation of Pennsylvania, literally 10 minutes from my front door, dating to 1795. The company was founded by Joseph Dixon and his son, and Dixon also acquired a 200-year-old German-based manufacturer, Lyra. And the pencil's name originates in the graphite ore discovered on Lead Mountain in 1815 and processed in Ticonderoga, New York. Now, Ticonderoga, New York, if anybody is getting their maps out, and I am. Ticonderoga, New York is really just a 5-hour drive. What a distance that must be. I mean, from Watkins, Glen, it's basically, even if you tried to go as straight as possible, 4 hours and 56 minutes. Maybe we just don't appreciate the size of the state of New York enough. But, it's getting way back to it. Bryson Stott having that pencil that was so iconic to all of us in school is just something cool, because it's his way of reaching out to those kids and letting them know that he remembers being where they were 20 years ago and then some. And actually, for as young as Bryson Stott is, it's more like 15. Ben and Allen leading our race right now with about a 23-second gap over older brother RP. Trent Curtis running in third position, Brandon Minto in fourth, and Gabriel Lafreniere in fifth. I'm Dave Riegel, and we're going to step aside and pay some bills here on Sim Racing Media. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International, where pit stops are underway and the random competition caution has flown. On lap 37, now here on lap 39, certain drivers have decided to come on down pit road. They'll be scored differently at the end of stage number 1, so they need to be careful. And hopefully, when we get to lap number 40, or the conclusion of lap number 40, we can make sure that all of those things are in order, if you will. But it gives the drivers a little bit of a break here. Maybe stretch that left foot a little bit. We're gonna have a chat here Going to have a quick chat here with Bennett Allen, driver of the number 15 B-Blaze Vintage JCTV Chevrolet Camaro. Hey, Bennett, it's Dave. You got me.
What's going on, Dave?
Hey, man, listen, I mean, a good run you had earlier, and now here we are under caution at what will be the stage break. You know, what were you thinking as far as pit strategy now, you know, shuffling around that field for stage points?
Well, I was expecting the caution to come before stage, because what I'm hearing from Chris is when we come to the green flag, that's technically stage, which in my opinion is a little bit unfair, because in real life they would just pace around, take stage, and then go back green. And the way we've done it in the past at ovals is caution comes out before stage, that stage everyone pits. So I find it unfair for guys like me who are battling for playoff points and trying to prepare for a deeper playoff run. But it is what it is. I kind of feel bad for Landon, who got caught up in an accident with a lap car because I feel like we were pretty even, so we weren't having a good run at it. But silver lining is I'll have a chance to go at it with my brother, so that's fun. But just a little frustrated with the stage points thing. But overall, the B-Blaze Vintage Chevrolet Camaros were pretty fast. Another road course, so I'm usually pretty comfortable.
You are definitely usually pretty comfortable, if you will, out here on the road courses. And, we talk about that you were just mentioning the playoffs. Now, we've got 3 weeks left before the playoffs after tonight. We go to Daytona next week. Then, of course, Darlington to the Lady in Black, and then Kansas for the regular season finale. Daytona can be a wild card race, as we all know. But what are you thinking with these 3 weeks left as obviously you're looking to springboard for a strong run into the playoffs?
I just keep my nose clean and take it race by race. With my 3 wins, I have, I'm pretty dead set on the playoffs. There's no fear of not making it. So, Daytona is always interesting. I'm a little bit more worried for the Cup race on Sunday, but I don't know. Just take it race by race. I have, it's like 4 weeks till our playoffs start. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Just like I said, take it race by race. Joseph should be back next week, so it'll be fun battling him for, playoff points and wins and stuff. But I just don't know. I don't know how to prepare for the playoffs this year. It's a little bit different situation than I was in last year.
I mean, realistically, once you get into the playoffs, at that point, everything kind of resets itself, obviously, and then it's just win and keep transferring, win and keep transferring.
Or, racking up stage points and transfer. One of the reasons why I wanted the stage or the playoff point for the stage is that helps me, have a higher, ranking leading into the actual playoffs. So the higher I can be in the standings, the better I have a chance of advancing. So, but we're about to come green here, so we'll see what happens for the next 42 laps.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we appreciate your time, and as you just mentioned, those lights on the iRacing.com pace car are out, so we'll be going back green flag racing now after this competition caution. At the conclusion of lap... Excuse me, folks. At the conclusion of this lap, that top 10 will be awarded stage points when they cross the line. Brandon Minto going to have control of the field, and we're back underway. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time to turn it up here on Sim Racing Media. Bennett Allen, our race leader, with a 1.46 second lead over Trent Curtis, who is currently our biggest mover of the race, up 12 positions. He's followed as the biggest mover by Rich Jett in the double natural at number 77, Washington National Chevrolet Camaro, who's up 11 positions. So obviously the big mover could still go to Jett. But right now, Bennett Allen, your race leader, taking care of business, that's for sure. Norman, Oklahoma's Brandon Minto trailing just behind Gabriel Lafreniere. As there's a 3-car battle right now for 4th position. It looks like Rich Jett going to hang out just behind Minto. And, you know, we were just talking about the NFL a little bit ago, and although I am not a college graduate, so I get to kind of watch who I want, when I want, if I feel like it. College football starting this weekend as Notre Dame hosts Navy at 2:30 p.m. to open the college football season on NBC. Of course, also USC right now being ranked number 6, going to be hosting San Jose State at 8 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Then, of course, the date that we've all been waiting for, the official start, the big start to college football season next Saturday, September 2nd. Michigan hosting East Carolina. Tennessee playing host to Virginia. Colorado visiting Texas Christian. Arkansas State traveling to Oklahoma to play the Sooners. And it's going to be a big weekend next weekend. But this weekend, kind of college football soft opening. And, you know, Notre Dame, once again, no conference, independent. You know, oh, we're Notre Dame, and they have the largest boosters in the NCAA, in my opinion. I don't care what college you support or what college football team you support. But Notre Dame always, in my opinion, maybe overranked and overvalued every year just because they're Notre Dame. But, you know, they've got that TV deal with NBC. You can catch Mike Tirico there on a Saturday afternoon from time to time. Of course, the now lead voice of NBC Sunday Night Football. But, you know, there's something special about college football. There's something special about the marching bands and the excitement in the stands. I mean, even, you know, years ago, a friend of mine, Drew, he and I went to see, it was Temple here in Philly at the Link playing Kent State. And even though that it was Temple playing Kent State, not really impressive as far as, you know, matchups go, they still managed to pack the stadium full of people, bring the excitement, and, you know, it's still that atmosphere. And there's something different about a Saturday afternoon game versus a Sunday night in prime time, that's for sure. And those kids are out there, and there's been a debate for years of whether or not college football players should get paid. Now, I do see somebody here in our live chat, so a quick split away here to Jeremiah Mullins, who's being cheered on by Sim Taco, saying, let's go 14. The 14 car with that Pabst Blue Ribbon paint scheme from Windham, Virginia. Jeremiah Mullins driving for Slick Shift Racing. But, you know, getting back to it, I've always thought that college football players deserve a heck of a lot more than what they get. You know, especially when you consider, first off, they are using their bodies as weapons. It's not even a joke. And not only that, they're bringing money into the economy of those towns. I mean, anybody who's ever been to State College, Pennsylvania, without Penn State football, there's nothing to do in that town. Sure, you can go to the creamery or check out the school, but other than that, it's in the middle of nowhere. And a lot of these colleges are in the middle of nowhere. You know, you wouldn't even know how to say Tuscaloosa if it wasn't for Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I challenge you to debate me on And, college football also breeds people like Nick Saban. College sports in general, if you think about it, Mike Krzyzewski, Nick Saban, and you look at coaches like Nick Saban. Nick Saban could literally walk into the middle of Tuscaloosa, kill a man at the town square, and be found innocent by a jury of his quote-unquote peers. It's just interesting. Even in Penn State, with all of the scandal that we had, several years ago, which ultimately ended in disgrace for the university itself. There are only a few names that you can mention in college football and make someone shiver. And it just happens to be Jerry Sandusky in Penn State. But Joe Paterno still, to this day, people think that he walks on water and and can heal the blind. And James Franklin has done a great job getting that program back to where it belongs, which is, quite honestly, middle of the road, usually overvalued. The only college football programs that I see that ever are who we thought they were is the Alabama Crimson Tide, Ohio State, and Michigan. Those three colleges usually have good teams that they put out and field every year. And I was talking about it earlier. Nick Saban is an interesting person, an interesting study in coaching and in management. Nick Saban could go out and win a game 75-3 and say, well, we didn't play our best football because we allowed 3 points. He goes out there expecting to be able to shut down every team every week, and they play for excellence. And I was talking earlier, about essentially Nick Saban being his players, Amari Cooper and the people who have come through his program in Tuscaloosa, being good players even in the NFL, well-disciplined, well taken care of. One of the plays that I hate to see in football is when, you hand the ball off to your running back. They take off and go up the field. And let's just say that they make a break. They get through the line. They get through the secondary. And the wide receivers are standing there off to the side with their hands on their hips watching the guy run. Players who came through Nick Saban's system will finish that play. They will go out and throw a block if they have to. Push a cornerback out of the way so that the running back can continue his march toward the end zone. Nick Saban players are disciplined. They're taken care of. They are absolutely... Wow, Ron Fitting just getting out of the way there. Hey, Ron, listen, racetrack is this way, man. Let's take a look and see what just happened with Ron. Looks like Ron started fishtailing coming out of the bus stop and into the carousel. He thought he brought it under control through the carousel. He did keep it out of the wall, and that's definitely all that matters. My goodness. He managed not to touch a single piece of safer barrier, even as he backs over the cones and gets himself underway. But, there are certain people in college athletics that are just head turners for what kind of a program that they can build. we've talked about the other sports, but here we are watching iRacing, and of course, here on iRacing.com. Yesterday in the Cup Series, William Byron brings the 24 to victory lane as Aaron Mack, my goodness, getting around Dan Morgan, a lapped car. Who in the world? It looks like Dan Morgan trying to do some landscaping as Mack and the 62 of John Wilco muscle their way by. But congratulations to William Byron, who brought home the checkered flag in yesterday's Xfinity Cup Series race, and Sam Mayer bringing home the win in the Shriners Children's 200 on Saturday. Of course, the Craftsman Truck Series out at Lucas Oil Park last week on the 11th belonged to Ty Majewski. I'm looking at Sam Mayer right now, just to pull up some of the stats here. Driving for Junior Motorsports, of course, so always, to me, something interesting. I have to know because I'm looking at this guy's picture here on NASCAR.com, and now I'm just curious. He is 20 years old. He looks like he's 12. The kid can't even drink yet. But obviously having some early success for Junior Motorsports. And Junior Motorsports is an interesting study in business. First of all, there's Dale Jr. recognizing that he makes a lot of money on everything else that he touches. Dale knows that pretty much anything that he puts the Earnhardt name on turns into gold, or at least, really, really good silver. And, Junior Motorsports, sure, I'm sure that Dale Jr. has the kind of money that it takes to go and field a Cup team. But to get a charter itself, or to even have a driver to race in, and he's talked about this before on the Dale Jr. Download, is a lot of money, and it's a huge commitment. It's interesting to watch him take some of these drivers. Now, keep in mind that Dale Jr. had his best success at the Xfinity level, winning a pair of championships and so on and so forth at that second tier before he went Cup racing. But, Dale Jr., I think it's so cool to watch him develop race car drivers. I think it's so great to watch him, say to somebody, hey, listen, Sam Mayer, I know you need a ride. I know that you're talented. And obviously, Dale Jr. kind of looks at himself or at his organization as a feeder to other Chevy organizations, such as, of course, Big Rick Hendrick. Whoa, hey, Mettler, listen, we're over here. Where are you going? Matt Mettler maybe drunkenly staggering through the drunkenly staggering through the bus stop. Obviously, someone's been hitting the chicken cock whiskey bottle. And for those of you that don't know, that's a little inside thing with Matt Mettler and I. He gets a bite of that curb too early, but manages to keep it out of the wall. But, Junior Motorsports is kind of a feeder or a minor league organization for some of these Cup Series, Cup Series regulars, if you will. As we're working lap number 55 of 82, looking for that checkered flag here in the Lot Cleaner Property Management and Maintenance Xfinity Series race at the Glen for the Shriners Children's Hospital 200. But, to watch some of these drivers, come through the Junior Motorsports stable, it's great to see that development. Dale Jr. is trying to basically develop that next generation of Cup Series drivers that we're all going to tune in on a Sunday afternoon to watch. He's kind of a caretaker, if you will, of the sport. A curator of history and a caretaker of future. And to me, that's just such an interesting perspective to have. And he understands the importance of who he is. some racing organizations don't even run a full Cup season, much less an Xfinity season. Of course, the Wood brothers only run big tracks, so on and so forth, and that's how they've always been. And Petty Enterprises doesn't really field an Xfinity Series team. They usually poach them out of the Xfinity Series and put them in Cup cars that basically, I think since the King's retirement, more than 30 years ago now, since the King's retirement, Petty Motorsports or Petty Enterprises has just really underperformed. Looks like Chris Claude getting ready to come down pit road as he announces that to Alexander Gangler, who's back out here on track in the Chicago Blackhawks Toyota Supra. We see Chris making that hard turn here off of the racing surface and going on down pit road. And another thing that's nice to see back in NASCAR is the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. When I was growing up, it was the Craftsman Truck Series, just like it used to be the Remax ARCA Series. But, to me, Craftsman it speaks a little bit stronger, in my opinion, to the fans of NASCAR. Sure, yeah, everybody likes to go camping and whatnot and so on, and that's great for Camping World. But to me, it's Craftsman. That's an American-made tool, or at least American assembled with foreign and domestic parts. But, Craftsman to me just belongs part of NASCAR. I mean, me personally, I use Craftsman tools every day at work. And I'm proud to use them, and I'm even more excited to use them because it's the same thing that they're going to use on a Friday or a Saturday in the Truck Series. I think it's important moving forward in NASCAR for NASCAR to get back to its roots. We've really done some interesting things with scheduling and changing some courses. The Indy Road Course, we all know that it's not a fan favorite. It's not a driver favorite for sure. Indy should be, at least in stock cars, for speed. Get out there and hit that weird looking square, if you will. Or the Daytona Road Course. Now, the Charlotte Roval is interesting, and they've been running Watkins Glen for more than 30 years, almost 50 at this point in NASCAR. Sonoma and things like that, sure, but we're missing so much. One race a year at Dover, one race a year at Pocono, and keep in mind Pocono. There were several years there toward the end of their run of the 2-race schedule, where Pocono's races were only separated by like 3 weeks. Fox got one and NBC got one, and that was important, in the broadcasting world. But we're missing Rockingham. We're missing, we get Darlington twice, which is exciting. But there are so many cool little short tracks that we could be going to. North Wilkesboro being resurrected the way that it was, as Trent Curtis is about to be challenged by Bennett Allen. Allen just closed in on him, as neither of them have been in since lap 38 for tires. Gabriel Lafreniere coming in now, as well as Rich Jett, as we have 23 to go here at Watkins Glen. But, I think it's important for NASCAR to get back to its roots. When you get distracted and pulled away and, basically off the mark, if you will. We've watched stands get emptier and emptier because, number one, the viewing experience at home is fantastic. Let's just take a look here for argument's sake. 86 degrees in the stands. That's fine if you're near a tree or something with shade, but 86 degrees in a sunny day anywhere is toasted. 101 degrees on the asphalt, so we have dropped a little bit. But, you know, to me, it's almost like I like watching the race at home, period. You know, it's nice. I mean, granted, you know, last year I got to go to Dover for the first time, and that was really exciting. But at the same time, it became kind of a pain in the tuchus to be out there. We were cooking. And, of course, the sun's only facing you from one side. You know, to me, it's nice just to be able to turn on the TV and maybe take a nap and wake up 15 laps later and something exciting happened, or maybe it didn't. Taking a look here at the pit strategy for everyone. Ethan Ball making the jump into 8th position now as he gets around Aaron Mack. We see Rich Jett moving up here into 5th position now, up 12. So he is now officially your biggest mover of the race. As we're playing with some new graphics here. Something that I want to draw your attention to. Oh, wait, that's safety rating. No one actually cares about your safety rating. Let's go to iRacing. So we can see here on the right side of your screen, or on the left side of your screen, right-hand column, that multicolored column. Those are called iRatings. 1.6K means 1,600. So Bennett Allen has a 1.6K iRating, and a lot of these drivers are out here, and we'll pull up a safety rating as well. There we go. Now, of course, iRacing has licenses. You know, we can see right now that Bennett Allen lost his A license and is currently in danger of losing his B, as that will change at 0. Automatically, it'll go up once he gets to 4 in the B. But, you know, this league is very diverse. We can see drivers like Steve Herring and Sean Kelly with a 1.4 and a 0.3 iRating, with rookie licenses, all the way up through A drivers such as, you know, Landon Lacey at a 4.2 or Brandon Minto at a 4.4 A license. But Minto only a 1.6K iRating, with Lacey having 2.3. You know, there are a lot of drivers who do not like going out in the open world anymore, so to speak. And I got to be honest, I don't blame them one doggone bit. I used to spend a lot of time in the public forums on iRacing, and, you know, go racing against so many different people from different countries, yada, yada, yada. The issue becomes not everybody's out there for the same reason you are. You may wind up with somebody who's out there thinking that that car is a V-plow on the front of it. And, you know, they wind up wrecking your day, your safety rating, your iRating. A lot of these drivers, you know, like we just saw looking at the iRatings, I mean, Bennett Allen, and we'll pull that back up here. Bennett Allen has a 1.6K iRating, according to our software here. Yet he's not the highest on, you know, he's just one of the highest, but he's not near as high as Landon Lacey. And keep in mind, Lacey had an incident earlier on, you know, on the racetrack. But the point is that, you know, Lacey and Allen were able to be duking it out, but because of, you know, these races not being logged for your time or your safety or your iRating, you know, that sometimes can turn drivers off. And we welcome everybody in this league. And I just really think that we need to reach out to you folks. And anybody who's interested in joining the league can hop on into the Discord, and or you can reach out to Chris Claude on Discord as well. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International. 14 laps to go. And just 17 drivers. I lie, 15 drivers still trying to turn laps as Gabriel Lafreniere, Landon Lacey, Steve Herring, and Sean Kelly have decided to call it quits tonight. Zachary Vaughn still on pit road getting some much needed repair done to the 91. Trent Curtis, your race leader out here with a 14-second lead over RP Allen, coming down last on lap number 61. Right now getting himself in good position to bring home the checkered flag, as RP Allen has yet to turn on the jets, if you will. And speaking of jets, Rich Jet, one of our biggest movers of the race, as well as Trent Curtis, still out here trying to gain more positions as he's got to work around the lap car of Dan Morgan, who's down 2 laps. Morgan gets out of the way of Jet. And, you know, a little backstory here to Watkins Glen. The settlement of the village began in 1791 and was originally named Jefferson in 1842. The village was later renamed in 1852 to honor Dr. Samuel Watkins, as his older brother John had purchased the property around the gorge in 1794 and constructed mills, so a glen, if you will. And, you know, we're tucked away in wine country, and there's always plenty to do. Of course, you know, auto racing here, Watkins Glen State Park. You know, there was a summer jam back in 1973 for a rock festival, fish festivals. There's all kinds of stuff going on in and around Watkins Glen, and it kind of reminds me, maybe the area itself reminds me a little bit of Long Pond, Pennsylvania, where Pocono Raceway is. I mean, it's tucked away in the hills, and I see smoke, no fire. It looks like Matt Metler may have wrecked himself here. Let's take a look. We're going to see Metler coming down the straightaway toward the bus stop. He's going to come down here with a heck of a lot of speed after coming down on lap number 49 for pit service. He takes the first curb and just can't get the car to turn and takes himself off track. But back to Rich Jet, who's up 13 positions. RP Allen up 3, running in second place. He's still 13 seconds behind Trent Curtis with 12 laps to go. So it's still anybody's race. As Curtis, Allen, and Minto, your top 3, if the race ended right now, that would be your podium. Lots going on in the world, as always, as we're glad to have you with us here on YouTube.com. And, you know, we do want to keep the folks down in Maui in our prayers and thoughts, because what a tragedy that is going on in Hawaii. And there's a picture right now on the homepage for foxnews.com, and it's of one home that was somehow left untouched by the fire. And, you know, speaking as someone who has been, you know, involved in wildland firefighting and things like that, what they're dealing with in Hawaii is different than anything we've ever seen, even California wildfires or fires in the Everglades and things like that, because they don't have the resources that we do here on the mainland. And I can't imagine trying to mitigate this disaster with the resources that they have, you know, without losing so much. 4 times the money for Alexander Gangler as he rolls it, not even at the bus stop yet, which is where we've seen more often than not these incidents happen. Dan Morgan running in 11th position right now, down a pair of laps. 1 lap down are Aaron Mack and Ethan Ball. Just 6 cars left on the lead lap as it looks like Jeremiah Mullins will be the next victim to go down a lap. As right now Trent Curtis holding his own here with 4 lap older tires than RP Allen, and RP Allen having slightly newer tires than Rich Jett in the 77. Peeking in on FS1, top of the 8th inning right now on Chicago's south side, where the White Sox are trailing the Seattle Mariners 9-1 with 2 on and nobody out. So maybe the White Sox looking to mount some kind of a comeback here over on FS1. Of course, to me, the Mariners will never be the same without the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. And, you know, as a child of the 90s, to me, he is the embodiment of all that is Mariners baseball. The White Sox in their black pinstripes tonight. The Mariners in their road teal uniforms. More like a sea green, I guess you will. As we see Trent Curtis negating Jeremiah Mullins, and now there are just 4 cars left on the lead lap. Trent Curtis, Rich Jett, Brandon Minto, and Bennett Allen with 7 to go. And I just saw it here, a pitch clock violation on Honeywell of the White Sox. And at first with the pitch clock in baseball, I wasn't really sure how I would feel about it. Because baseball to me does not get a clock. You know, it moves at the pace that it moves at. And sometimes you have a pitcher that works fast, other times you have a pitcher that works slow. At the end of the day, it was sometimes painful to watch a pitcher get himself ready, shake off 5 or 6 signs. You know, that can be irritating in and of itself. Well, you know, then you get to where we are today, where all of a sudden a game is now taking 2.5 hours. And for a lot of people, especially people going to the ballpark with kids, that's just about all they can handle in the first place. Can I get an amen from all of you parents out there? D-Cash Videos, of course, Alexander Gangler, running in 16th right now in the 8 machine, says, "Go Cubs, go." And as a Phillies fan, I've always been just a little bit jealous of the Cubs for being able to have, their own theme song, if you will. There was a song years and years and years ago. It was "Go Cubs Go, Go Cubs Go. Hey Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today." And I thought that was so cool. And really, I think Chicago has some cool music to it for its sports teams. Of course, Chelsea Dagger for the Blackhawks still gets under my skin every time I hear that song because it makes me think of the 2010 Stanley Cup Finals. But, and then "Go Cubs Go" for the North Side ball players. It's just exciting. Checking back in on the Baltimore Ravens and Washington Commanders. The Ravens now having just a 1-point lead over the Commanders in the third quarter with 3 minutes, 3 seconds left. So not necessarily a nail-biter, but certainly not a runaway for either team. Speaking of runaways, in the bottom of the ninth right now, the Atlanta Braves trailing the Mets 10-4. So that ought to make my colleague Frank Marchese real pleased out there in San Diego, which I'm assuming that he's working tonight, as the Padres have the Marlins in town. Tie ball game at the bottom of the second for Kansas City and Oakland. So the out-of-town scoreboard definitely active tonight in baseball. Trent Curtis leading our race just ahead of Rich Jett, Brandon Minto, and Bennett Allen, as Bennett Allen now 46 seconds behind race leader Trent Curtis. As Curtis has a 38-second lead over Rich Jett. That's about 1/2 of a lap. As Curtis in his debut here, showing all of us why he decided to debut at Watkins Glen. Looks like Curtis about to work his way around yet another lapped car. That's the 96 of Ethan Ball. Ball currently down 2 laps. He's looking to try to stay at just 2 laps down as we have 3 laps to go. I'm not a daily basketball follower, if you will, but I know when I hear someone's name in basketball and I recognize that must make them a very important person. What do you all think out there on YouTube.com in the live chat about James Harden? I gotta know. Is it just me, or does it seem like he's been around for a very long time and may think more highly of himself than he's actually worth right now? Two laps to go. The popsicle sticks are in the air for Trent Curtis. As he's followed by Rich Jett by 40 seconds. So the way that it shakes out right now, it's going to be Curtis, Jett, Minto on the podium, with Bennett Allen bringing up the rear of the lead lap cars. Trent Curtis coming out of that final turn, getting around Chris Claude, as Chris wanted to try to stay just 2 laps down, or I'm sorry, just 3 laps down, now 4. Popsicle sticks go down, the white flag is in the air, and we're racing back to checkers. Trent Curtis leading the field now, with Rich Jett in the double natural finishing in second. The checkered flag comes out. Trent Curtis, you are today's winner. Rich Jett about 42 seconds behind. He'll be finishing in second, 43 seconds now. Brandon Minto going to round out your podium tonight. So Trent Curtis, as we pull up that driver information here, going to be your race winner ahead of Rich Jett and Brandon Minto, as Trent Curtis here in his debut brings home the checkered flag. Trent Curtis, you are the man, followed by Rich Jett out of Schwanksville, Pennsylvania, and Brandon Minto from Norman, Oklahoma on the podium. We will get to those post-race interviews in just a moment. Just waiting for Trent Curtis to finish celebrating here. So while Trent celebrates, we're going to go to the third step on the podium. Out of Norman, Oklahoma, Brandon Minto, how are you feeling tonight, sir?
I'm feeling very lucky. There's no way I should have had a P3. A lot of people in front made a lot of mistakes, and that's what allowed me to be on the podium tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting race as far as watching some of these positions, swap back and forth throughout the evening. I didn't expect to see Trent Curtis gaining 13 positions or Rich Jett coming up 15. But, after the early on problems, for our former race leaders, here you sit on the third step.
Yeah, I know Bennett ended up getting a speeding penalty, whenever he made his final pit stop, so he got a speeding penalty, and that's what pushed him back. RP Allen ended up getting disqualified for too many X's or anything or something like that. So I just really lucked out. Trent had amazing speed. I was racing with him a little bit there in stage 1, or he was fighting behind me, and I was like, okay, I can kind of hold this dude off. Little did I know he had that much speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next week, speaking of that much speed, we head to my favorite place on earth, Daytona International Speedway. What are you thinking as we get ready to go super speedway racing again?
The one thing I'm just happy about is I've been able to make almost every race. I think I've only missed one race. So, and I've just been very consistent throughout the year, and somehow I'm leading the league without a win. I'm leading the league in points. So kind of going into Daytona, kind of just, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. Like, if I want to try to race hard off the very start, I might. If I want to try to wait till stage 3 to start trying to push it, I might. I don't know. I got to talk. I'm not sure if Mike Wright, if he's going to end up racing that race or anything, but I'll probably have some like conversations with him throughout the week to decide. But I definitely love Daytona. I love Talladega. I just have a lot of patience, and that's really what allows you to win those races is just having patience and just making smart moves. And I feel like Mike and I, like, we're pretty good at making smart moves and just being patient.
Patience will be key over the next couple of weeks. So, congratulations on the third place podium. And usually we hear about Upside. So, who do you need to thank and tip your helmet to tonight?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Upside since you brought it up. Upside with the ridiculously high gas prices. If you download the Upside app, use promo code Brandon5623344. It'll get you an additional discount off your first tank of gas. And I want to give a shout out to my parents. They tune in every single week. And then my Uncle Scott, he tunes in every week out there drinking Miller Lights. I want to give a shout out to you. Like, you always put on a great broadcast. I love going back watching these races. And then good old Miller Lite for keeping me calm.
Yes, Miller Lite can absolutely keep one calm. That's for sure. I know tonight for me it was Captain Morgan. But I'll tell you what, man. It was a great run tonight, so congratulations.
I appreciate it, Dave.
That, of course, the great Brandon Minto, driver of the number 12 Miller Lite machine. Currently looking for our second place driver, Rich Jett. See if we can find him here. There's Rich. Hey, Rich, it's Dave up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Rich, you got to get closer to your microphone or turn your gain up.
Hello, hello.
Well, let me see if I can fix this way. Try it again.
Hello, hello.
There we go. Hey, Rich, listen, great run tonight here, coming up 15 positions and being the biggest mover of the race. Obviously, Schwanksville, proud of you tonight. How is that car feeling?
It was very sketchy in the practice in the beginning of the runs, but went on kind of like in the middle, like second, third. It kind of hit a really good spot, and then it kind of fell off a little bit. But it was really good. I was pleased, very pleased with it.
Now, being from where you are you a Commanders fan, a Ravens fan, Pittsburgh?
A Buccaneers fan.
Oh my goodness, that's even more confusing. Well, you know, I was talking earlier in the race about TB12 retiring. When in a sport like NASCAR, like we've done tonight, you know, we always talk about getting back to our roots and getting back to the Southeast and so on and so forth. When we come to a track like this, how does that change up your strategy, moving ever closer to the playoffs as next week we're heading toward Daytona?
In this car, I like the road courses. In the Cup car, not so much. I felt confident of a top 10. Not getting any accidents. But yeah, just keep staying consistent. Getting a few stage points here and there, and staying in the top 10 in points.
Yeah, definitely a big help. I mean, next week we go super speedway racing, down there as close to Tampa as we're going to get, I guess, for you Buccaneers fans. I don't even know where to go with that at this point. Congratulations on losing Tom Brady to retirement or catching him at least for one more Super Bowl. But who do you
got
need
one
to
ring?
thank
It's all that
tonight
matters.
that's very true. It's just one additional ring for him, and it's good for fan morale at least for a couple of years before you get back stuck in the doldrums. But who do you need to thank for tonight's second place finish?
Got to thank you, Dave, for putting on the broadcast. Who was up here, giving us a really good show. All the admins of the league, Chris, my teammates, John Wilco, Steve Herring. I'm sure they're listening and laughing and loving all of this. My two kids, my daughter's asleep 10 feet away. I guess it wasn't exciting enough for her.
I know the feeling. Trust me.
That's it.
But all right, man. Well, listen. Congratulations on the second place finish. We will see you next week at the World Center of Racing in Daytona Beach.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, especially on our leaderboard, Mr. Trent Curtis in his debut here in the Xfinity Series. Hey, it's Dave up in the booth. You got me.
Loud and clear.
Hey, man, listen, welcome to the MNN Xfinity Series. You're not the first driver this year to bring home a win in your debut. Obviously, you had the 13 car wound up crazy tonight. How do you explain how you wound up 13 positions up and bringing home the checkered flag?
Well, it helped one of them on the start with 3 car going tails. I was at least 1 or 2 of them there. A couple of my teammates, Ethan Ball and Nick Hansen, caught them pretty quickly. And then after that, it was really just methodical because I know this car. It's very, the tires on it are very sensitive. And I think a lot of people like to throw the car into the corners. And like I caught the 06 fairly quickly. And that was tough to pass him on lap 10, past the 12. And then after that, I knew there would be another caution, so I was just kind of, playing the strategy, get to third. Caution came out, and I got by RP there on pit road, and that really helped set up getting behind the 15, I believe that was Dawson Allen. Got behind him. I don't know what happened to him. He got wide in the bus stop, and I passed him there. Then after that, it was really trying to not outthink myself.
Yeah, a lot of it, I know, especially in my own time behind the wheel, sometimes you get up there and into the lead and you get into your own head and you make one accidental mental mistake and, you can throw a whole race sideways like that. But you were able to keep your brain between your ears, that's for sure, and keep your head screwed on tight tonight. And, to win at a road course in the first place is always something really difficult because it's such a different discipline of driving. And speaking of different disciplines and discipline in and of itself, next week we go to the Super Speedway, the World Center of Racing, to Daytona. What are you thinking going into the Super Speedway?
I'll be honest, Dave. I hate plate racing. I love road course racing. I hate plate racing. I know probably a lot of people come up here probably love plate racing. Probably think it's their best shot. I'd argue I have a better shot at Pocono than I do at Daytona. Just simply, it's not my style of racing. Because a lot of it's out of your hands. It's really a lot of knowing what to do with runs and really knowing how to manage them and patience and just dealing with everyone else and hoping everyone else has patience. So I haven't had a lot of luck at plate races. So I always look forward to these races because these races I know I can control. Plate races I know I can't control.
Well, that's a fair point. For me as a former driver, I used to love plate racing. I mean, Talladega and Daytona are my 2 favorite tracks on the circuit. But I can appreciate your sentiments as far as, it is a lot of luck, and sometimes it's what to do with those runs. And, you're going to be experiencing a lot of vicious racing. But, congratulations on the win tonight. And before we let you go, who do you need to shout out and thank for this run tonight?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Mike McConville coming in late to kind of coach me up. Really, he was the one that kind of coerced me into going with the short pitch strategy that I think ultimately won the race. I was on the fence about it, and Mike was the one that told me, it's better to go big or go home, and I wasn't going to go home without trying to win the race. Jordan Anderson Racing. I'd like to thank personal sponsors, Slack Cars Performance Manufacturing, Celsius for sponsoring some of my favorite race car drivers. That's obviously I'd like to thank you, Dave, and everybody here at this league for putting this on. Anytime I get to run Watkins Glen makes me a happy man, and this car was the last one I hadn't won in at Watkins Glen yet, and I was really looking forward to a chance to do it, and glad to do it here.
All right, man. Well, listen, once again, congratulations. We appreciate the kind words as always. And we will see you next week at the World Center of Racing.
Sounds good.
Well, folks, another one in the proverbial book, if you will, or at least in the scorebook that we call simracerhub.com. And I'll tell you what, this Xfinity League is something special to watch as it has developed over the last several years into, in my opinion, the premier Xfinity series on iRacing.com. And I think that speaks a lot to the leadership of this league. It speaks a lot to the drivers of this league who have consistently showed up every week and put on a great show. But for tonight, we want to take one final look at our lineup here, at our final results. 4 cars left on the lead lap. Trent Curtis brings home the checkered flag, and he is partnered with Rich Jett and Brandon Minto on the podium tonight. Bennett Allen, as I mentioned, the 4th car and the final car on the lead lap from Money House Racing, saddles it back in 4th position. Rounding out your top 10 is Jeremiah Muggins, driving the number 14. He brings home 5th position. Aaron Mack, Ethan Ball, Nick Hansen, John Wilco from McAdoo, Pennsylvania, and Dan Morgan round out your top 10. As chief cook and bottle washer of the SNN Cup Series, Mr. Chris Claude finishes 11th. Matt Metler, my teammate here at Sim Racing Media, he finishes a strong 12th position as R.P. Allen and Ron Fitting bring home 13th and 14th. Gabriel Lafreniere, our neighbor from the north, in tonight's only international entry, finishes in 15th position. Alexander Gangler comes in 43 laps late, but manages to still net 16th position as Landon Lacey led laps early on, but then could not keep it together. Zachary Vaughn in the number 91, he finishes in 18th position. Steve Herring and Sean Kelly finishing in 19th and 20th. So they will round out your 20 cars that took the green flag and the 20 cars that finished this race. And folks, I cannot be thankful enough that you have made us a part of your evening, because without you folks at home watching, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to on a Monday night. And we just want to thank you for joining us every Monday night. Of course, you can hang out with us next Tuesday for the Truck Series. And then, of course, this coming Sunday night NASCAR live at 7:30 p.m. You can hang out with Tony Trapasso and Matt Metler as they bring all of the action from Daytona International Speedway. And then, of course, next Monday, if you liked hanging out with me tonight, we can do it all over again next week at Daytona. And I promise you, that show will be electrifying as we head to the World Center of Racing. So for everybody else here at Sim Racing Media in our live studios in Norristown, Pennsylvania, I want to thank you for making us a part of your evening. And remember, as you go through your day tomorrow, that you're special. You're the only person like you. You're unique. And that's fine by me. Good night, everybody.